Record on this computer. There we go. Thank you. Allow recording. If you want to record, let me know and I'll hit you, make a request.
I
Anyway,
need permission to record.
okay, say, I don't see you up here, so say you need to.
Robert Martel.
Got you, Robert. You got to click on the button that says request recording. Because I'm allowing recording as a general setup, as a general setting. So you got to click on there and then it'll come up, say you're recording there. See, Tommy did hers.
No, it's not working.
I'll put it on YouTube as well. All right, so this is the one without the head. So I went ahead and cut the head out, and then I trimmed it this morning just so I could fit it in there. You're going to want to make it fit better because I would take more and more out there as I needed. But with this one, you can really give him a long, skinny neck. There you go, Robert. So you can give him a long, skinny neck. Whereas with this one, you'd have to bring this down somewhere around right here to give him a neck and a collar. If you don't want a collar, you do a sweater or a vest or something like that. But I think for most of you said you wanted it with the head attached, not separate. So when it comes time to do the head on this one, I'll peel off and also have some instruction for this one. Because the great thing about this is it's oversized head. So you could actually have him to where he's looking, here's the front. Draw that on there. Where's my marker? I'm going to put a big F on here, so that's the front. So that if we know we're looking at the front, it's facing this way. Okay. I could turn his head to where he's looking to the side. I could almost turn his head completely around. The chin gets in the way of the shoulder with this small carving. But we're going to work on that. When it comes time to doing this one, we'll look at how we're going to do that head. Any questions so far? All right, moving all this stuff out of my way. Switch cameras. That was you see my list. That was my list of things, of projects I want to do. So some of them are going to turn into classes for us. Some of them are going to turn into classes for my classes here for the school district and for woodcraft. Some of them are going to be classes that I teach elsewhere. All right, every time I carve, I want to draw first because I don't know about you, I like knowing where I'm going. And while I've done several of these, let me show you a couple of those for those of you that haven't been here. While I've done several of these, it's almost always like starting all over when I do it because I don't do the same thing over and over. I'm impressed by people who can do the same carving and they all look alike. So you do 10 Abraham Lincolns and they all look the same. I can't do that. I'm too impatient. I'm too impulsive. So I end up with a bunch of different looking ones, even ones that I haven't painted. That's the one that didn't have it. That's the one that didn't have a neck. So I had to create the neck in there. Look how thin that neck is. How many of you would break that off if you were making that neck like that or thinner? This is one I just finished in the last few days. Again, without the neck, and it worked out pretty good. I think I like him. He's got a sweater on, so he's got his hands tucked in his pockets. He's kind of pigeon-toed and bow-legged a little bit, so we can do that with the one that we're going to do. But anyway, these are the ones that we're going to do. Does anybody want to take a screenshot of those as something to look at? I'll leave them up there for a second or two. Get Alvina. Alvina, glad you could join us. Thanks for joining us.
Can you back off of it just a little bit?
Back off a little bit. This is a webcam, so I can't back off much. I can raise the... Let me raise this up a little bit. I'll just raise the arm.
Here you go.
Is that enough for you?
That's good, thank you.
Trying to get a little bit more out of there, and I'm not able to get her going. Come on now. Is that good enough?
So, yeah.
Yes, I got it.
All right, I'm going to leave it right there then. Maybe not. It's not letting me do nothing, so I'll do it another way. They good?
Oh, good.
All right, we'll lock it in place and leave it there.
Thank you.
All right. So for those of you that want to get a screenshot of that's examples. Yours doesn't have to look like that. Please don't try to repeat what I'm doing, because you might do a better job what's in your head than what I could. So you got your own idea. Get that going. Okay. Everybody done with that? Okay. All right, and starting off, again, we're going to draw. I always want to draw. I got to know where I'm going. And so just to keep everything straight, I've got a pair of these, never remember what these things are called. Anyway, they're measuring devices or whatever they are. Anyway, what I'm going to do with that is make sure, what's that?
A compass?
Compass? Yeah, maybe that's what it's called. So when I go to measure things, how far from this chin down do I want that elbow to be? Well, I got a natural break right here that I've already cut out on it. So I could assume that's the top, that's the elbow here. But just to make sure, I want to make sure it's going to come down to the same spot. Same thing here. If I want to know where the middle of the arm is, if I want to know where, let's say that's where the elbow was. Well, where's this middle of the arm? Where's that going to be? I want to make sure this is in the same spot here as it is over here, because what I don't want is one elbow up and one elbow down when he's got his hands in his pockets. Now, I'm not a slave to measurements, so there's going to be times when I don't really care. If you look at a person standing there with their hands in their pockets, it may be true that this elbow is higher than the other one. It may be true that this corner right here, the inside arm pocket part right there, may be moved a little bit forward just because they're moving their arm a little bit. So I'm not going to be a slave to that, but I at least want to honor it, know where it's going. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a center line. Always draw a center line. Center line right down between the middle of the chin and the crotch area. I've cut it I cut mine out of the middle so I have room to make the legs do a little bit like this when it comes time to do that. So that way I can thin those legs out a little bit more. I don't like these great big legs, but I'm going to put them on there anyway because we can always make them smaller. Go straight up through the head. I don't know where the middle of the head is, because when I go to do ears, I got to know where it's at. I want to know where everything is and match up as much as I can, match up these lines. Not that I have to follow them, but I do want to follow them to a degree. Now, I keep hearing from carvers, especially instructors, that say, I always carve the face first, because when I do, if I make a mistake here, I can throw the whole thing away. I haven't put a whole lot of time into it. And I'd say, well, you made a mistake. Why not cut that head off right here and do it as an insert? So now you put the head on, now you just put another head on. I'm not going to waste a whole piece of wood just to throw that away because I made a mistake on the arm. I've got to remember symmetry is important, but I don't have to follow the symmetry 100%. In other words, I'm not going to take this guy if I made a mistake, or even if I didn't make a mistake. I'm not going to take a center line and say, this is going to be exactly perfectly here. So it's going to be the exact same here as it is here. Well, I don't know that I want to do that, because when you look at people, you're looking at them while you're talking to them. If you notice their eyes, very rarely do their eyes move in sync up and down the same way. Eyeballs move left and right. So you got to understand that you don't have to be guaranteed that everything is similar, just like you split down the middle. If you take a picture of anybody in a book and you look at it and then you take a copy of that and you split it right down the middle, what you're going to see is not two different things, not two of the same things. You're going to see they're going to be slightly different. So I'm going to draw with symmetry in mind, but I'm also going to, the rubber meets the road when I start with the knife. All right, so I also start with the bottom of the feet. I like to make sure this guy's going to stand up, because if he's going to lean forward, that now I got to go find a base for it. So I'm going to draw middle lines down for the feet, assuming his feet are straight out in front of him. Assuming that he's looking this way, here's the front. Assuming he's this way, I want his legs that way. Well, maybe I do it, maybe I don't. Maybe I want to give him pigeon toe to where this toe, it's hard to do that when I've cut out so much out of the middle. Some of these others I haven't done, like this one here. I haven't cut much out, so the toes are almost touching, which means you could probably make them a pigeon toe. Not going to do that. I'm going to figure out how big the shoe is, and based on the ones that I've done, I could go with little shoes. These aren't real big shoes. I could go with some bigger ones. Let's see if I can find a great big one there. Look how big his feet are. So I could choose whatever I want. I'm not sure why it's not focusing. There we go. So I could choose big feet. I could choose little feet. I'm going to draw them big. As I say all the time, I can always make it smaller. I can't make it bigger once I've cut them out. So the back of the feet, he's kind of standing with his heels back here. That's actually going to come back here like this, come into the leg. So I'm going to trim some of that back of the foot off. So I got a lot of play around here, but somewhere about right here, here's that line right there. So somewhere about here is the back of the foot. Now I can make them shorter if I really find out that I need to, because that's a long, narrow foot. But we're gonna see what works. Start off big. I'm just gonna round the big part of the foot. The front of your foot is the widest part. The back, the heel, is the skinniest part. So this is not going to be as wide as this. This is going to be wider than this. So I'm going to bring those toes in. You're not making Armani shoes. You're not making something you sell in a department store. You're making caricature carving shoes. And if you'll take out your foot and measure across, you've got to width across the toes and then narrower down here in the back. So I'm width across the toes. I'm going to make it widen out. You see how much room I got to play around with? So I'm going to draw a shoe, something that looks like that. For those of you that are not good at drawing and repeating, grab an index card, draw one, put it on here and trace it, flip it over and put this one on and trace it. You'll get two shoes that look about the same when you do that. That'll save you a lot of grief of sitting here drawing and cutting out and cussing and throwing the pen across the room. Whatever you do when you get frustrated. Anyway, now that I've got these about the same size roughly, little index card works on a lot of things. Hands are the same way, shoes are another one. Tommy, thank you for sending that picture of my penguin in the magazine. I hadn't got my copy of it yet, and I didn't know it was out. So thank you for sending that out. I went to Wood Carving Illustrated, and they had it listed in their thing for this month, whatever for this issue. Thank you for sending that to me. If you haven't gotten it, go get a copy. Go buy it, whatever. What were you gonna say, Tommy?
I just said anytime.
Thank you.
Well,
All right, so now I got the shoes. I do want a little bit of symmetry, but I'm gonna figure out where my arms are gonna go. So if I assume that this part right here is the back of the elbow, and know that I can always bring that in some more. So I'm going to put those in the same spot. I've already got a cut right here, so I can put those in the same spot. That's going to be the back end of the elbow. The back end, when you bend your elbow, that part right there. Okay? Now, how far do you want that? I could even move it in some. It's not a big deal. This makes him stick way back out like his back is bowed. And he's leaning, it's got itself puffed up. I'm on a date. I'm puffed myself up. I'm going to get ready for this. I'm going to draw, this is what I drew earlier. I still have those lines left. Here's the top of the arm. Here's the inside part of the arm. This is going to go down here. And again, this guy, it's his first date. He's a goofy fella. He's got a weird body shape. He's tall and lanky, real thin. Make him goofy. Make him look good. I mean, you have a short arm up here and a longer arm down here. It looks funny. And if you do it right, you can get away with it. There's the arm. So I'm going to do this right here. Here's the back of the arm, top of the arm. Here's the inside. There's the wrinkles. Here's the sleeve. And feel free to narrow that down as you get down here, because the arm, this forearm is thicker around than the wrist. And so you could bring that in some more if you wanted. Put a cuff on him, whatever you want to do. But there's the pocket, which denotes where other things are going to go. So I've got this cut out right here. This is a cut line right here. And when I flip over, there's that cut line there. Now the question is, how far in does this go from here to where the shoulder is going to be? Now, if I want to give this guy a big neck or a long neck, I got to leave room here for a collar so that I can push that neck up. If not, I want to push this down, so where that would be the top of the collar, and his collar would be right here, and I see how much room I've got to play around with the neck there. Anyway, I got one arm in there. I want to measure how far that is, and actually that's about the width of the pencil. So I'm just going to lay that right in there, width of that pencil, and somewhere about right here is the top of that arm. There and there. And so I can draw that part, just like I did this one. Now, how long is this arm? This is where you use the compass to do some things. I'm going to put that right in the corner, and I'm going to push it till it matches. You know, it's heck not having all your fingers. Don't lose them. I just want to tell you. So that's about that length right there. I say that because it's hard to get over here with a half a thumb and a middle finger. It's hard to get over here and screw that in there. All right. So now I'm measuring this, and I'm measuring here. Is that the same angle? It kind of doesn't matter, and it kind of does. It depends on how much symmetry you really want. I think this arm, the top of the arm is right there where the top of the pocket is. So I'm going to make that connecting right here. So that way I can kind of see where I'm going. And I may still be off, depends on what I'm doing, but that looks like about right there. Double check. Here is one arm. Here's the other, way back there. And the pocket is way down here. So see, that line's not going to work. That's where that pocket is. The pocket's going to be over here. In there. So this arm's got to come down here. And I've got to put that down here. A little skinnier than I wanted. So let's make him fatter. Again, notice that if I make it big, I can also make it littler. But if I make it little, I can't make it any bigger. And I'm going to move this out just a little bit because I know that's out further than that. So that should give me bottom of the sleeve, bottom of the sleeve. That's about in the right spot. If I look at where the bottom of that sleeve is, and the bottom of that sleeve. Now, if you're worried about it, measure. Draw some lines. Will this line match up with that one? Kind of looks like it'd be about a straight line across, give or take. So now I know where that goes. So let me put them on with a marker. I got the upper inside part of the arm, outside part of the arm, pocket, pocket. So that looks close enough. Now, when you go to make this cut right here to narrow this down, realize that if man's got his hands in his pocket, you have a slight bulge right here. So you got to leave room for that bulge. So you can't just go here and take all this off. You got a bulge that's going to fit right there. Somewhere that gives it looks like a pocket there. So we're just kind of eyeball and draw the, throw a pencil across the room. Just kind of eyeball where the pocket is. That's the bulge. Roughly. Again, realize these are just rough drawings. These are not measurements. Don't get out your calipers and measure. That's 2.5 millimeters from here to here. This is just going to be a little bit of, that's where we're going to put that. The top of the pocket for pants pants that have a place for a belt, that's going to be the top of the belt, the bottom of it actually, right there. So the bottom of the belt the pocket has got to be below the bottom of the belt. It can't be in the middle of the belt. It can't be above the belt. It's got to be right there in the middle of the belt, or the bottom of the belt, right there. Okay. So if you're looking at where that belt is, there's his belt. Now, the upper part of that belt going to come about right here. And again, I'm drawing so that I can erase later. Now, do you want him to have a belly? Take this straight line off and make it go down. I mean, I have a little belly that I don't really like. Can't seem to get it off, but I go to the gym as often as I can. We're going to make him slightly dip. Slightly dip. We're going to have it curved down like this. Okay? And it means we're going to match this other one with it too. Who knew you'd have to do so much drawing on a little carving? There's his belt. Let me put this in here. Here's the bulk of the pocket. Here's the bottom of his belt and the top of his belt. Sometimes I give him a, those men that pull their belt way up above their belly, I've had them to where they come up here to his elbow. It's a good look. Okay. So now we've got a belt in there, and now we've got his arms. Take a minute and draw that in. I might have gone a little fast for you. Maybe take a minute and draw that in. I'm going to take a drink of water. If anybody's wanting to record and is not already doing so, please ask for permission. I'll go ahead and click that and let you do that. And that way you can you'll have your own copy of it. I will put it on YouTube. I've decided that these Zoom classes, I'm gonna go ahead and do them. And sometime down the road, I've talked about a subscription model. I don't know that I'm gonna do that anytime soon, but I'm gonna figure out whether I've heard of something called Ko-fi, K-O-F-I. It's a little button on your Zoom recording that people can click on that and make a $5 donation, $10 donation, whatever, to support free classes. I don't really want to get into charging people for classes because that just becomes a pain in the butt to do so. But then you're chasing everybody, and half the time you question whether you let people in the class if they've not paid or whatever. So I'll do it as a donation kind of thing, and hopefully that'll be enough to make it worth my while and your while too. All right. I'm going to give him a belt buckle somewhere in here, and somewhere about right here I'd have, depending on how far back that is, I'd have one belt loop on this side and one belt loop on that other side. I'm going to draw that in. That may not be where I end up putting them. I may not put them in at all, but we're going to put that in there. Just looking generically at the head, one of the things we have to decide, are you going to turn your head or not? Is it going to be the front? We'll do him at the front. For most humans, the middle of the neck is right where the front of the ear is. So right there is basically the front of the ear, goes right down the middle of the neck. Look it up on a anatomy book if you want to, but if that's the middle of the neck right there, if this is the middle of the neck right here, and it's the middle of between these two edges, if that's the middle of the neck right there, there's the front of the ear. That's a piece of symmetry we can ignore because we can move that forward, we can move it back, we can cover all that with hair without having to do ears. But if we do ears, about where the jaw is, the bottom of the ear is where the jaw starts, and then the ear goes back like this. Doesn't give us much for the top if we have that big ear, so we'll have to figure out that. But anyway, just for anatomy purposes, I'm going to draw in the neck because it's right in the middle.
Only reason. But
Okay. Okay, so there's the front of the ear. We can move that forward, we can move that back, we can do whatever we need to, but at least that gives us a general idea about how the head looks. Most of the head is bisected right in the middle. Here's the ear, so there's the back of the head to about right here, front of the head to about right here, and then whatever's sticking out over here for the nose. All right, you tired of hearing me talk? Now you want to carve? I'm going to start carving here in just a few seconds. I've got to get my safety gear on. Always remember to follow, use, and understand how to use your safety gear, whether it's a carving knife, a bandsaw, a drill for drilling out the head. Use whatever safety measures you need to do that because we don't want anybody to get hurt. There's a lot. Go ahead.
You're talking about putting the ear on there?
Not yet. I
Well,
want you to know. I want you to know where it's at roughly, but we're not putting that in yet.
okay, and so my question is, if I'm looking at the block, the side of the head there horizontally, what level would I think I'd want to be looking at for an ear? Did that make sense?
Yes. So that depends on what you're going to do here. If you're going to have a long neck, then that ear is going to be dropped down because you're going to bring the bottom of the jaw to about right here. If this ear is up a little bit more, the bottom of the jaw might be right here. So if I were to draw, here's the head. The head's going to roughly do this right here. Somewhat like that, depending on how far you bring out the nose, how far you push back the chin, how far you bring in this neck part. It can come in even more. We could take a lot of it off. That ear is going to go from the chin to the hairline is divided into three. From the chin to the nose, bottom of the nose to the eyebrows, eyebrows to the hairline, about third. And we can stretch any of those the way we want. That's generally what my face is going to look like. That depends on what kind of nose you're going to put in there, what kind of chin. You could bring the chin way out here like this, mustache, whatever you want to do. But basically the hair, the top of the ear right here is in line with the eyebrow. Does that make sense? And does that answer your question?
Yes. So like you just said, dividing the head in thirds helps with that too. Thank you.
So this measurement here is crucial for looking at the ear because the top of the ear is intersecting with the eyebrow, that bone across the top, and then the bottom of the ear comes down here to the bottom of the nose. Now you look at somebody like who was the guy on the news that had the great big ears? I can't remember his name, but he had great big ears, and so these ears come way down. Marco Rubio is another one. If you've seen him on TV, he's got ears that come way down below the nose. You need to do this the way you want. I'll show you the symmetry, stretch it any way you want to. But just know that there are people with little bitty ears, there are people with great big ears. But generally for most humans, the third of the face between the bottom of the nose and the eyebrow is where the ear is going to go. So that ear would do something like this. You see how that line is lined up there? That line is lined up there. You can make them bigger. You can make them smaller. This head is drawn a little bit oversized, and I've got him moving forward here. In reality, what I'm going to do is move this back just a little bit and this in just a little bit so that his neck is going to be over here and the back of the head is going to be back here instead of right there. Not worried about that just yet. Okay?
Thank you.
You betcha. Any other questions while I'm putting on my safety gear, which you should all put on your safety gear before you carve? Just saying. All right. For me, I do like starting on the face, but as I get better at carving faces, I don't really care. I'll cut the head off and put another one on if I need to. What's important for me is how does it stand? So it looks like, if you just look at it straight on, one of those feet is just a titch longer than the other. So this one right here, I need to get my marker out and make him just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to take that shoe and make it just a little bit longer. That looks a little better. I squint my eyeballs, it all looks in line. Okay, I'm going to start with that foot. And I usually use a big knife to start without because I'm going to take off big chips. I'm going to start off by taking the front and the back and making the middle and the sides match. So follow along if you want. This is some good wood that I just got from a guy in Utah. He brings us good stuff up here for our show. And I bought probably more than I should because I didn't need that much. But it's one of those things where when you need good wood and you don't have it, you're kind of desperate. And so I like to find wood when I find it, especially if it's good. And I'll worry about where I'm going to put it. I'll put it somewhere. So I'm trying to kiss that line as I go around. I'm trying to get right up on that line, front and back. Getting close. Get the middle piece out. I'm going to curve that, so make sure your knife is able to curve, bend. You need a little bit of a bend there to get that out. And I've got 1 foot almost completely shaped out in terms of the bottom shape. Now just do the same thing to the other side. That's about all it is. Taking off that wood. I see all these other carvers that are doing videos, and a lot of them are either they got a camera person. Roger Stegall uses his grandson, Peyton. I don't have a grandson or a granddaughter. My wife is working in another part of the house, so I got to do this myself. So I like the way Lynn Dowdy does it on Out West Wood Carving. Judy stands right above him, and she keeps him in line when he's kind of out of picture or whatever. So Lynn has Judy, and I got Peter to keep me in line. So we're all good there. Now in just a minute, we got to make some decisions on the pants, but we're not there quite yet. We'll be there in just a few seconds. They kind of look like Fred Gwynn, the guy that played Herman Munster. Big old shoes there. We can trim all that down when we get to it. What kind of pants do you want? We can go with some high waters. This guy's rocking the high waters. We could bring them up even more if we wanted to. We could have them just coming down over. Do you want a cuff on the bottom? Whatever. Decisions you have to make when you carve. If you remember back when we were doing cowboy head, you got to make some decisions on what you're going to carve and how you're going to do it. I did not draw in the back of the belt. That's going to be important for figuring out where his buttocks are going to be. So if this is going to be scooped down here, it's going to be up a little bit. So here's the belt coming over and the belt coming over, and I actually want it to go up a little bit. So here's where the top of the belt would normally be. I'm going to make it go up a little bit. So it goes up in the back, comes down in the front.
Working.
Okay, so just draw those in as a guideline. Right now we're not there yet, but we want to know where his buttocks will be. Somewhere right in here he'd have pockets, and we'd have to decide how far up we want to get those that fold in between the legs. Okay. So now I'm going to draw the shoes. Well, I'm gonna figure out where the pants are. I'm gonna have the pants come to the top of the shoe, and so here's top of the shoe. So I'm gonna take a lot of this off. And those shoes look like he's wearing what we used to call in the 80s remember moon boots? Those winter things you'd wear they look like something the astronauts would wear. Love those things. They really kept my feet warm, but boy, you can't hardly find them anymore. Anyway, that's the top of his shoe. Go back some more. And then if the pants are gonna come down here, there's the top of the shoe right there. And the pants will come back here, and you decide whether they scuff on the ground, do they drag on the ground, or do they just barely above the ground. That's up to you. That's another cut that you'd have to make in there. The shoe you round over the front. You could even drop that down a little bit more. I'm doing shoes just like Harley Repsol does. Harley Repsol is the flat plane carver, and if you know who that is, he basically puts big old shoes on his carvings, and it works for what he's doing. But anyway, I'm going to draw quickly. I don't want to take a lot of time drawing, but I want to draw right. So there's the back bottom of those pants. This shoe here, pants are going to come down to here like that. Pants are going to come down even further to right here. So they go down in the back. This is the back of the carving. They go down in the back, and they come back up to meet where the shoes are. And so I'm going to draw a cuff here, because while he may be on his first date, he's not wearing cheap pants. He's got him some. He went to Penny's and got him some good breeches. So we're going to give him a cuff. Okay. So his pants might be dragging a little bit back here when we get done with it, but we're going to put that in there. So now what we're going to do is going to start working on the shoes. He's standing up really well. Doesn't seem to matter what I do. Wood is cut out. He's standing up. He's going to be okay. He's going to be okay with those shoes as long as I don't make them much smaller. Everything else we're going to make smaller because we want this guy to have some skinny legs. If you want your guys to be fat, feel free to do that. But I'm going to take off first this wood right here. So the wood that I marked off above the shoe, this is the part we're taking off. And all I'm going to do is just shape them. I'm not going to add a whole lot of details to the shoe. Whatever tool you use to take that off, I like a short bladed knife. This is a Denny knife or OCC knife. I like it. OCC went out of business, but you can still find some of these things out there. I like this because the handle fits mine. I don't have big hands. This one fits right in there. It's got a little bit of a groove there to hold on to. But anyway, I'm talking too much about a knife that you may not be able to find. I'm just going to carve back, and I'm just going to take that stuff off that I don't want. Ever how you use it, whether it's power or a knife or whatever you use. A fishtail gouge, I like to use a fishtail gouge a lot of times when it's awkward to get into like this. If you remember, I don't have a thumb on this hand, so I can't do the push with my thumb. So I have to do it a little bit differently, and it works for me. Anyway, I'm just going to go straight back. In this, you're going cross grain. It is hard to carve cross grain if you've ever done it. If you've not done it, take my word for it. Anyway, all I'm doing is taking off down to that line that I marked in. You can see the difference in those two shoes. There's one not cut in. There's the one cut in. So I'm just giving an overall shape. I don't care about details. I'm not putting in shoestrings or a buckle or nothing like that. I'm just trying to get the size down. And what I do to one side of the carving over here, I also want to do it over here. Now take into consideration how much I'm taking off back here. We're going to thin this leg down quite a bit. And we're going to thin it not only this way, we're going to thin it that way as well. So right now I'm just trying to get the shoes shaped. If you haven't got good wood, find you a good supply, because carving across grain on bad wood is not fun at all. See the shoe we got going on? We're working on it. Let me get a little more centered here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, same thing over here. For those of you going to the CCA meeting this year in September, I'd love to check in with you and see how you're doing. If not, I do a video of every show that I go to. Just not quite the same as being there, but it kind of is, because you'll see everything that's there at that moment anyway. We'll have some talks with people and things like that. So maybe I can catch up with you up there, and if not, maybe you'll have a show close to me and we'll get that, catch up with each other sometime. Or maybe I'll come teach a class out there if you got a place for me to do it, and 10 or 12 students that want to take a class from me. I retired a couple years earlier, and so my wife and I, we needed to remodel our kitchen, because it was 1980s kitchen, and it was what our contractor called a one butt kitchen. That's about all the butts you could get in there. So you couldn't have two people helping you cook. You couldn't have somebody putting up dishes while you were cooking. There wasn't enough room. So because we did that, we had to borrow. We used some of our savings, and we borrowed a small loan from the bank where my wife works. And so I want to pay that back. You know, on a fixed income, you don't have a whole lot of extra spare income. So I'm substitute teaching to be able to pay that loan off as quickly as we can, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years. Anyway, I'd love to teach classes, and I'd give me a 5-gallon bucket and some time, and I'll sit there and carve with you, and I'll do a class if you want. So call me up. You know how to get a hold of me. All right, got both shoes where we want them. We're going to spend a little bit of time narrowing down from the crotch area down. We don't want to dip into this pocket just yet. So all I'm going to do, my grain is running this way. It runs up, straight up. So all I'm going to do is I'm great around to about right here, because the grain is running this way. And so when my grain is running the length of the figure, so when I'm carving here, I'm pushing everything against that wood that's remaining. When I get out here and I start carving here, that wood wants to break off out here. So I can carve down here, and then I got to carve up here until that break area right there. That natural break where this is where it's going to be the back of his knee. His knee's going to be back out here somewhere, and we're going to have a little bit of cut in right there for the back of his knee and his pants. But we got to watch where we're carving. So as I carve down from the elbow, that's easy to do. I can carve that off, and it's pretty and it's easy. Comes out. If I start to go this way, it wants to split on me. So all it does is just split off. There's splits all through here. Just reverse that 180 degrees and carve up to it. And then you come back and you make that cut again. Deeper and deeper and deeper as you need to. And then come back here and cut as you need to. And then when we get to this point, it'll be chewed up a little bit, and I'll show you how to fix that. Above the pocket, or below the pocket, I want to carve all the way down to the shoe. Don't take off a lot, but take it off just so it's even with the shoe. Because you may have to change your idea of adding a cuff in there, and you may not be able to get it in there. But anyway, we're using flat plane carving techniques to just come in here and make these big wide facets. We're going to do that on the inside of the leg too. I'm going to put my point of my knife right in that top of that cut, right in the middle of his leg. Again, go all the way down to the shoe. Flat plane carving style, big cuts, big chips. It'll give you the style, it'll give you what you're looking for, because later you're going to come back in here and you're going to carve some detail in there. We'll have some wrinkles folded in there. Anyway, I'm not carving the back of the shoe yet, but I'm close. I'm getting to where I'm cleaning out that middle part right there. So I'm thinning these legs down. This guy's going to have some thin legs. You know, he doesn't play sports or anything, so he doesn't need to be very muscular. He's more of my kind of person. He's the geeky nerd that spends a lot of time watching Star Trek or the Doctor Who. So we're getting him thinned down. We're not thinning him completely, but we're getting him thinned down. This is also removing all those pencil marks and all those saw marks that we've been doing. So you'll end up with pencil marks all over your carving. I know a lot of people complain about how pencils leave all these dark things all over there. Well, by the time you get it on there and carve it off, it's not gonna affect your glove because you're carving it off fairly quickly. You can always wash these gloves. I mean, these gloves are cotton fiber. You can always wash them in the washing machine or spray them with something and then set them off to dry. Okay, it's the hogging part of it. We're taking off a lot of wood with some kind of removal tool. I like to use a knife. I'm primarily a knife carver, but I have no problem using the V-tool, fishtail gouge. In fact, I'll grab a fishtail gouge sometimes and we'll just go to town on it, and it does the same thing as a knife does. So down the front of the leg, I can really take off a lot of wood with this. It's at a different angle, so if your shoulder's starting to bother you, switch to this because you're only holding it with these two fingers, and then you're using your shoulder to move that in and out rather than your forearm. So you can see how much wood comes off of there at a time. We can really just have fun with it. But anyway, right now we're thinning that leg down. Looking at the clock, 2 o'clock. Hard to think we've been here for an hour and a half already. All I'm doing is just thinning these legs down. I'm trying to stay in the same area that I'm carving. I'm trying not to carve new areas. I want to get this one down to where I want it, and then I'll go to the other one and make it match. I'm just thinning the legs out. Staying above that bulge where the pocket is. I'm not carving in that bulge. I'm staying above that. And then coming back here and cutting off the excess wood. I want to show you how to do one leg before we get off on the other, because it's the same technique. It's doing the same thing. So I want to get you started on one, so your homework between now and what's today, the 1st, between now and the 15th, when we have our second meeting on this. Give you something to do, some homework, a reason to pick him up and play with him. So I'm trying to stay down around the bottom of the buttocks. That's what I'm aiming for. His gluteus maximus, or his cheeks as some want to call it. So I'll end up having a bulge right here for the buttocks, and then we'll have an indentation here and an indentation over here for the pants. Okay. So a lot of people have a hard time carving clean. And I hear a lot of people say, well, carve clean and you don't have a lot of cleanup. Well, you know, some people just don't see it that way. So don't worry about that. You carve the way you want to and the way you need to. I'm not one to tell you you got to do it this way. I have a friend of mine who's a really good artist, and about 5 years ago he started carving. He carves totally different than I do. He doesn't wear a safety gear because his hands are never in front of the blade. So he says, if I keep my hands behind the blade, I don't have a problem, do I? And I'm going, well, that makes sense, Ed Earl. I guess that'll work. I get a little clumsy sometimes. I want to make sure I'm protected if I need to. I mean, when I use my bandsaw or something like that, I know more than likely nothing's going to come up and hit me in the face. I still got goggles on because my luck, I'm from the holler, and my luck is about as bad as it gets. I buy plants, and I tell them I'm gonna grow me some tomatoes, and the plants die. I change the soil a little bit to make it better, and it just gets worse. I buy a cow, I want fresh milk, and the cow dies. So, you know, I don't plan on luck happening anytime. I'm take care of what I need to take care of. Anyway, I'm blathering on, sorry. You see that one leg? Getting a whole lot smaller than that other. And that's what we want. We're gonna take off a little bit more in the middle here. That's where we want to go. We still got the drawing up here of the cuff. We'll take that off in a little bit. We'll shave a little bit of this off here. But this is where we're headed. We're trying to make him thinner, because basically he's going to be bulged out here, go down, and then come back out to his shoes. And that's where we're headed. So you can see where the legs are getting thinner in there. I haven't got up in that crotch much at all, because it's hard to see. Once you start carving, you lose where the tip of your knife is. And that's one of the things we always say. You got to know where the tip of your knife is, because while I'm carving this way, I'm okay. What happens if I slip and I go in? Well, these things will keep you from getting cut, but when you jab, it's going to go in, and it's going to go in whatever's on the other side of that cloth. I don't want that to be my finger. Kind of particular that way. Okay. I'm not trying to impress you by going real fast or whatever. I know I've taken classes from other people. They just go so fast I can't keep up with them. I can barely see what they're doing because they're going so fast. But anyway, you know where we're going. We're thinning this leg down on all four sides, front and back, in left and right. And we're going to leave those shoes alone for just a little bit more. But that's what we want to do. We want to trim down that pant leg. Okay, questions so far? I've gone at a fairly good clip, maybe a little bit too fast, but you watch it on the video. I'll put it up there as soon as I can. I usually get it up on the same, usually start working on it today, and I should have it done by tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so I don't have to work tomorrow, so I should be able to get this thing in. 2-hour videos takes about 6 hours to get loaded up. I'll do my best for you. Any questions? Alrighty then. At this point, I'm going to switch tools. I want to go to a sharp V tool. Make sure it's sharp, because you're going to be going across grain a lot. And if it's not sharp, you're going to end up crushing the fibers. So I'm using about 1/4 inch, number 70, something like that. Looks like about a 70 to 80 degree V tool. I can't hold still, the camera won't focus up that close. Anyway, take my marker, put my lines back in. I've got the line for the bottom of the cuff, and you can see I'm going to have to take that in some, because the cuff lays all the way over here, and I don't want it laying on top of the shoe. I want it to come in about right here, and then the other one will come right above that where the break is. Break is where the pants fold. I learned that when I went in the military, because they wanted your pants to be just long enough to have one small break right at the top of the shoe. They didn't want any more. Didn't want it dragging the ground. Didn't want high waters. Got to have that natural break. So that's what we're going to do. So draw that in. Still got the old line from there, and I got the new line up here, and the other line in between. And I'm going to take that V tool, and I'm going to generally carve down. The grain of the wood is running this way. I want to carve down. If I try to carve up, I'm afraid it might break off too much. This is nice soft wood, so I can make an easy, simple groove in there. Follow that groove around. It's important that you draw. For me it is, because if I can see it, then I can do it. I can follow that line once I draw that line. If I don't have that line to go by, then who knows where I'm going to end up. Okay, we're doing the bottom line of the pants, and up here I moved that back a little bit, so I'm going to just bring it over to that line that I said I wanted to be at. Go across the top of the shoe. Got to be real careful with that, because that'll break off real easy on you. And if your knife is not sharp and your wood's not soft, you're going to have a hard time going across that grain, because going across grain is a pain in the behind. Okay. I've made that one cut there at the bottom. I want to bring my knife back in. And what I want to do is I want to put my knife right in that groove and make a fairly medium deep cut, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to carve up to it, and I'm going to be real careful. I want to slide. I don't want to go pushing. I want to go slide. I'm going in and I'm sliding. That keeps me from crashing into that other wood up there, because if I don't, if I go in here like this and I'm going to pop that piece out, I just lost that cuff. So I want to slide as I go. It's a more controlled cut. It's going to be a slower cut, and it's going to allow you to sneak up to the cut rather than crash into that other piece of wood. I don't know if you can see that yet, but I got a good start on this cuff right there. Cuff the top of it, and there's the bottom of it, and I'm sliding right up into it. That works across grain too. I'm going to slide. It makes a smoother cut, and generally the wood will come off better for you rather than trying to jam it in there. There's times when you need to be strong in your carving. At times you need to muscle. A lot of times you don't. You need to just take it easy. I'm going to shape that shoe a little bit more by going down. I want to go down the shoe here. I'm going to go down and come back up. I don't want to go straight across. I'm going to go down and come back up, and I'm going to round the front of this, but not until I get that carve down and up to the cuff. I'm just going out, and I'm taking it just like the front of your toe on your shoe goes up, then it goes down where the meat of your foot is, and it comes back up at the back. So we don't really worry about the back too much. We're worrying about the front. I made a comment to somebody the other day. We was carving together, and about every 5 seconds he would. And I'm going, what would we do if you couldn't blow off the chips? We were both laughing about that, because what would you do? You'd have to make a cut, get your brush out. Make a cut, get your brush out. It might not be so much fun. You might be brushing too much. All right, I've gone almost around this foot. I haven't done the back here. This is easy to break off because you don't have a whole lot of wood back here supporting it. So be real touchy back here. Otherwise, you're going to end up crashing right through the rest of that cuff. So make stop cuts here so that the way they'll come off easily. Otherwise, you're going to end up with issues. We already got enough issues. We don't need any more. Our issues have issues. We don't need any more of those. So you can see where that is. There, we got one part of the cuff. We got a shape of the shoe. I've started on the inside, although that's hard to see back in there. It's hard to get back in there because I got one cut up there. But when does this one meet the other one on the other side? On the inside. So a lot of times you just kind of got to eyeball that one. And that's what I'm going to have to do now. I'm eyeballing right in between here. It's really hard to figure out where this one's coming. How does I make it match that one? So I'm going to try it with my V-tool. Maybe, baby. Yes. Okay, I got it. You can't see it down in there very well, but I got that cut to match almost all the way around, which is good. That's what I wanted to do. Okay, still working on this shoe. I'm now going to take a little bit of this bulk because this is a really thick cuff. And so I got a choice. I can come in here with my fishtail gouge and just saw it off. I can come in here with a knife and do that. Or I can come in here with the gouge like this. That'll meet the size of that cuff. So if I ignore the line that I got drawn in there and I carve up, I want to carve up here. I don't want to carve down. I'm giving that cuff a little bit of a feature. So I'm giving that cuff almost like it's rounded in nature. In other words, the cuff is thinned out now. It's not as thick as it was. And it has that, if you ever looked at men's cuffs, they have kind of a roll to them. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I've done that cuff right there and given it a rounded nature. Same thing up here. Be careful. I'm going up. It may have a tendency to break off, but I know I can generally get it just about down in there. Go across the top. And when you get to a point, you're going to crash into that other side. So it's best just to nibble it away or go with a smaller one. I think I might have a smaller one here. There we go. And that'll allow me to get down in that hole where I can't see, but I still got a fairly decent curve of the cuff all the way around. It's hard to get down in there. Think I did it. Maybe. Yep. And if we look at it from the other side, going across the bottom, the back, got that to just about come all the way up. So I think I'll be able to get the rest of this little tool. Just love it when a plan works out. And that's how we're going to do one leg. It's only one leg. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish this one up. I'm going to go back to my V tool, and that line that I drew up here, now I'm going to cut that line in for the top of the cuff. Again, the good thing is, if you're doing this and you mess up, you can make it flat and make it look like a plain bottom leg instead of this cut. You don't have to keep it there. That's an added detail that if it gets away from you, you throw it out and you do something else. And in this case, if I didn't get it done right, I could always just carve it off smooth. Could have put a couple of those breaks that we talked about a minute ago and make it match up. Where's my camera person focusing in on this? Might have to hire me a 15-year-old kid or something. We've been living in this new house we're in. I say new, it's built in the 80s. It was new for us though. Don't see a whole lot of kids in the neighborhood, but there's a few. Mowed the yard the other day, and about 2 days later, this kid come by and says, I just wondered if you have any odd jobs I can do. And I'm going, and where were you 2 days ago when I had to go mow the yard? I don't have a big yard. I don't have much of a yard. It's a small one. And we bought it for that particular reason, because living in the middle of the desert, trying to grow grass, ain't that about the dumbest thing you ever heard of? But if you didn't grow grass, yours looks odd. But anyway, maybe when he comes by here, I don't know, he looks like he's about 15 years old. Maybe when he comes by here again, I'll turn him loose on the lawnmower, but check with his folks first to make sure it's okay. But you don't see that anymore, do you? The kids coming around asking for odd jobs. I remember when it was snow, you can go around and ask people, can I shovel you walk? You might make $200 on that whole weekend. Shoveling snow for people that don't want to shovel snow. I get it. It's back-breaking stuff. I didn't want to do it, but I like the cash. Never heard anybody come and ask. There's about 4 or 5 of us here in a row. We all got snow plows. I got a little electric one. So when it snows, if you get it more than a couple inches, you kind of want to clear off the sidewalk so people can walk. But everybody's like, all of a sudden, it's almost like we coordinated it, although we don't. Pretty soon everybody's out there with their snow machines and they're getting the snow off the sidewalk, so at least you can walk. Most of them push the snow out in the driveway. I don't think they're supposed to do that. All right, that leg is looking a whole lot better than when we started. He's got a severe, what do they call that when your knees, bowed knees? Is that where your knees almost go backwards from the joint? But anyway, that's where we're going between this one and the next one. I'm going to continue working on that shoe because I really want to get as much of this thing as I can so you know where you're going. I don't want to start you on something new for homework. Still got about an hour, but I want to make sure I'm being aware of the time. Okay, I hadn't checked the chat. It looks like there's one chat in there. I think that was when Peter said, hello, everybody. Hey, Pete. Hey, Peter. Glad you could be here with us. Okay. All right. Let me get chats away, get it away. So that's where we're at with that shoe. All I'm going to do is trim the top of it off because I want it rounded on the front. And so I'm taking off that hard edge. Move that back, dip it a little bit more along the top of that shoe. flat plane style of carving generally has the front of the shoe coming up. So you have the shoe, and the front of the shoe comes up like this. I won't put that severe an angle on it, but I am going to try to clean up all this wood that was hit with the saw blade. And this wood is fairly dry. We have a very dry climate out here. So sometimes when you carve some wood and it's real dry, what you get, let me see if I can get it zoomed in. You get this kind of feature right here. I don't know if you can see it, all these little marks across here. That's when the wood crushes because it's so dry. So if your knife is not real sharp, it'll crush that even worse. The other thing is to put some alcohol, rubbing alcohol and water on that, and it swells it back up and makes it a lot easier to carve. Let me show you what that looks like, I think. So I don't know how close this camera will get, but I'll try to do it right there. So you see right there. Right there, you see those little marks there? Look like scratch marks, they're not. They're just where the fiber's been crushed. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this 50-50, 50% water, 50% alcohol, and I'm gonna give it just a squirt. Well, I gotta prime it first. So I squirted it. It's darker because it's wet. And so when I carve that, I'm gonna let it soak in for about a few more seconds, give it a little bit more. What happens is that does that, and then when I go across it, the fibers have soaked up that liquid, and so they're a little bit more together than they were when they're crushed. So now if I come in here like this, come off of there, I didn't go all the way back in there. Makes it a little bit better cut. And so when I soak that in, I do that on all this wood, it helps with the wood that's swelled up. It helps make it a little more smoother cut than what you would have normally got. See if we can zoom in here a little bit. You see that cut? It looks a whole lot better right there. It's right in there where it was all these little scratch lines in there. Sprayed some water in there, made it a better cut. I didn't cut it well over here. But that's what you do. That's one of those tricks that I teach you about, that it helps you with your carving, because instead of it being all kind of boogered up because it's dry wood, focus. Okay, so you get an idea of what I'm doing up there. Now, what I also want to do here, it's going to have a heel. So somewhere about right here, there's that break for the heel. So you got shoe and a break, and then you got the sole. I got the sole, the bottom part of the foot, and somewhere in the middle, like right here where this heel is, it comes up and it dies in there. And then you have the back heel with a line in there. For that triangular cut right there, I'm going to go in the back part of it. So the shoe's right here. I'm going to go in right here at the back part of that cut and just make an indentation. Okay. Then I'm going to turn it a 45-degree angle. I want to come back to it and take that off. You don't have to draw a line, but make sure when you go to do that for the inside of the foot, draw straight over, make that cut over here, and do the same cut there. I don't like to, I know some people will do it with a V-tool. They'll take that V-tool and they go straight across. Well, one of the problems with that is if I'm going to put this on a carving, I'm going to put this on a piece of wood, and I do that right there, and I screw a hole into here and a screw in there. If that screw ends up right here, you'll see it. And so somebody will say, well, that's not what I want. I don't want it to look like that. So I want to make sure that that doesn't look, if I'm going to do that, I want to make sure that screw comes into here where there's still a solid piece of wood. I haven't done this foot yet, and I'm not going to worry about it yet. But now I'm going to go around that bottom edge where I've got all those lines, and I just want to trim them down. What I'm trying to do is make it look like the shoe's a little bit worn. I want to make sure it's got something other than a really sharp edge. And I want to carve that edge off. That'll also take off some of those marks that I left on there when I drew it. And it'll age the shoe is really what it does. And then for this line that goes around, I want a V-tool. Up to you whether you use a small one or a big one. But I'm just going to follow that sole. You know what I want to do first is take off that. So I'm going to take off that hard edge, that sharp edge right there. Because if I cut that in, then I won't have room. If I cut that the sole in first, I won't have room to cut off this sharp edge either. So I just round it over, missed a spot. I just rounded over the edge of that sole. And now I'm going to come in with my V-tool. And I'm just going to cut right along that line. Makes a sole there. Be careful as you get over towards the bottom of it. If you get too close to it and your tool is not sharp and your wood's too soft, you'll break it off. So you got to be real careful. So make sure your tool, number one, is sharp. That'll solve about 90% of your problem there. So most of the time when you're going to screw up down here, it's because your tool's not sharp enough. And so you have a hard time doing this line separation between the heel and the shoe. Do it back here too, so I got a separation between the heel and the rest of the shoe. And that's what I'm looking for right there. Focus. Okay, so you got an idea of where I'm at. Now, do we want laces and tongue in here? I generally don't put that on a carving. I've never had anybody walk up and grab my carving and say, oh, it doesn't have a tongue, it doesn't have laces. I ain't buying it. I don't think most people look at it very much. They don't really care. They look at the overall expression in the carving itself. This leg is looking pretty good. I really like what's happening here. Okay. 220. Just making sure we got plenty of time. So we've done the leg. You know how to do that now. Watch the video, see it again. I'm going to take off some of this rough pieces. So you're going to leave some cut marks that you don't necessarily want. You can take those off easily with a wide gouge. In a little bit, the next time we come back to this, we're going to put some wrinkles in there. But I can do this, go across the grain with a wide gouge. And what it does is it makes that ugly cut that was in there left over. You cut that off, and that's what another fuzzy you don't have to worry about. But it also gives you some texture to it. So this is the leg. Pants on a man, or unless he's wearing them skin tight like they wear them now, pants on a man generally have a lot of folds and features like that. So you can add a few like here. Somewhere around here, I have a tendency to leave the tip off my marker. I'll put them back on there. Somewhere around right here, halfway up the leg, we're going to have some wrinkles right in there. So that's going to be the break of the pants on the back. When you walk, this is the stuff that gets crunched up. Leg bends, knee comes out when you walk, and the back gets crunched up a little bit. So we'll put some, when we get ready to finish this, we'll put some wrinkles in there, and I won't worry too much about it. Let me get you started on the arm, because we got the leg, and we know what we're doing with the leg. Let me get you started with the inside of the arm, but first, we got to take this sharp edge off. We know where this is going to go, so I'm just going to sit here and right along that arm, I want to take that off. Be careful how much wood you take off up here, because that may be part of the neck you need to save. We're just trying to get that arm going, okay? Both pieces, because this back here is going to be indented. The arm goes up here like this. Here's the bottom of the arm. It goes up like this and comes up here, somewhere like that. but I like to take off the front first. And so here I've got this right here and this right here I'm going to take off. I generally do that with a knife because, like I said, I'm a knife carver. So I'm going to go into that upper arm right down to where the elbow is, because we're going to take quite a bit of that off, and then down here to the front part where the pocket is. So I've made 2 cuts, one cut here, one cut here. A lot of ways to take that off. Use whatever's more comfortable to you, but it's just a bunch of triangles I'm cutting in now. Cut, stop, cut, remove. Stop, cut, remove. You see how deep we are in there already? Okay. Be cognizant of where that inside of that elbow is. You want to know where that is. Okay, and that's going to allow me to see now how much I've got to take off the front. So where the belt is, and where that hard edge is on the front, this hard edge right here, I'm just going to take wood off. All this is doing, make another stop cut right there, and another stop cut right there. You see how the arm is coming out from the body. You can see some kind of shape to it. Come down, cut it off. Same way here. Cut it off. That gives us a start on the arm. Now what you're going to do here is make a decision on how skinny his chest is going to be, how much of a belly he's going to have stuck out. You know that way up here, this guy is he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he's not going to have a great big chest up here sticking out. His pecs are not that big. But we can take some of that wood off right there, and wood off in here. Again, take off as much as you think you need. Leave what you think you need to leave. And trim that as much as you need to. We're just getting started on it. More is going to come off here, more is going to come off here, and more is going to come off back here. So generally I'm going to stop right there where the pocket is. Make one cut there. Take off that sliver right above that cuff on the sleeve. 2 if you need to. You got to know where that pocket starts and ends. Because where this pocket ends down here is where the sleeve begins. So I've got to leave room for that. So I'm going to take off that little chip right there. It shows me where the bottom part of this sleeve is. Okay. Take a little bit more off here above where the belt's going to be. Allows me to get under this wood and remove a lot of this bulk up in his upper area, chest area. A little bit more. Don't take off too much. You need to put a belt in there, and whatever kind of shirt he's going to have. So is he going to have a tie? Is he going to have a pullover, sweater? What's he going to have in here? You got to leave room for all of that here. We got a lot. There's a lot. I mean, you see that sticking out right there. We got a lot to play with, so we can have a little bit of fun with him. Take off more, take off more, take off more. Remember when you're doing this also to remember you're rounding at it too. So back here is the back of the arm. We know this is the elbow, so that's going to stop right there and then come in there. That gives us an arm. Marker might be able to see it better. So back here is the back of the arm. Here's the arm that goes all the way down to the pocket. So if you can see that, you should be able to carve it. Okay, so I'm going to grab a soft V. Again, don't run out and buy one of these, but they're useful when I want to make a cut that's going to be deepened later, but I'm still not sure 100% where it's going to be. Soft V is one that has a V that's not real sharp at the bottom. It's got a rounded piece. It's almost like a marriage between a gouge and a V tool. Anyway, I drew these lines back here. So I'm gonna see if and I do this with this soft gouge because I'm not sure yet where his neck is gonna be. And so I wanna put this out there to give me an idea of the size of the arm. So I've got that. I'm gonna do it back here as well. And I'm gonna follow that all the way down to that pocket cut. So now we got the shape of the arm. We don't have the size of the arm yet. This is going to be a little bit bigger. This is going to be bigger too. So what I'm going to do, take that fishtail gouge that I had laying here, and if I like where it's at, I'm going to just nibble away. Starting at about the middle of the back, I want to nibble away underneath the arm. This is going to make the arm stick out a little bit more. So these are my first few tentative cuts. Because if I don't have enough room for anything, I've got to leave a lot more room somewhere else. So that looks like I'm headed in the right direction. He's got an arm. I realize some of these black marks may throw you off, and I apologize if that's true. I've had instructors say, "Why are you marking up black? Use a pencil." Well, I got this, and I like doing it this way. I got a pencil over here that'll take off, or a eraser that'll take off pencil marks. But I find it on some of these things, maybe you can see that arm a little better now. Okay, so I still got room to take it off over here, and I got a lot of room to take it off over here. And so I can just decide which one I want to work on. We're working on this right side so that we can keep some symmetry. This cut needs to be angled more to the inside rather than to the outside, so that I can leave a lot of room in that sleeve right there. So I'm still working on this sleeve. And I'm undercutting this sleeve so that it looks thicker than it is. Right now it's just a flat, plain kind of wood. And right here at the bottom of the sleeve, I want to undercut it because the bulge is over here and not back here. So I undercut it without going too deep. And I can make that bottom of the arm start to stick out. Okay. So again, knife. There we go. Gonna make that deeper cut on the upper part of the arm, and that deeper cut on the bottom part of the arm, of the front of the body. Come back in here and undercut a little bit more. Take a few more cuts out there, a few more out of the top. All I'm doing is shaping that body. Still got a lot of room to shape. I want to be careful about how far up I go. Again, go back as far as you need to. What you don't want is a skinny fellow with big arms, or a fat guy with really skinny arms. Something in the middle. All I'm doing is undercutting this arm to make it stick out a little bit more. So you get an idea of where we're going. He's starting to get some shape to him. I'm going to take a little bit of this front piece off because this is too harsh now. It don't look right. So I'm going to follow that line that I cut in there. The line's still there for the bulge. And I want to take it off here. So let me show you how to navigate that bulge. I've got it bulged out a little bit here. I want to go right along that line and come in and curve out. So I'm going to go in, curve out. It gives me a non-sharp edge where that bulge starts to have like a little fold there. Do the same thing down here. You know what, I'm gonna switch it to my fishtail gouge. I'm gonna go right up, right on the front of that bulge, go in and out, in and out, curve it out. That'll give me some room to start playing around with some more parts of this leg. So I'm going all the way around the edges of this pocket bulge. He may be mad at his neighbor. He's scared as heck because it's his first date, and he has got his hands balled up inside his pockets. Hopefully you can see a little bit of that bulge right there. It's sticking out. We'll curve it. We're going to have to take out more off that side because we want to curve it. There's a natural break in here halfway up where it comes down this way, comes down that way. But you get an idea of where we're going. Okay. I'm going to do the knife because I got better control of that knife now. The angle of the way it's coming in. Taking it off the part of the top of the leg. Now I'm going to do it off the back of the leg back here. Not again. Here's something you don't see a lot, but sometimes you do. I'm carving on this wood, and all of a sudden I notice there's a big old crack right here. Here's the crack. It starts right there. I don't know if you can see that. It runs all the way down through here. Happens in wood all the time. I know a lot of people, by the time they get to that point, they're going to throw it away. I like to work with wood that doesn't necessarily head the way I want it. You can see it right there. Got a big old crack right in the middle of it. Now, if I wasn't watching for it, I wasn't paying attention, I'd make a cut and the whole side of that would fall off. I'm not going to make a cut right now. I'm going to work around it, and I'm going to see if I can save it. So instead of carving more over here, because it's right here on the front of that leg too, and the leg is okay because I've got one grain running up and down. This is going this way and that way, and so I've got other things that I'm carving. But there, look at it there. It's getting worse. I'm chasing it, and it's getting worse all the way down through here. It's all right. Don't throw your wood away if that's what it's got. Don't throw it away. We can use that. And if you need to, we can put a little dab of glue in there and then go carve another part of it and leave that alone. Okay? I got a little part right here at the bottom of this pocket. Right here where the sleeve and the pocket come together. Right there. The bottom of the sleeve runs here. Top of the sleeve runs over here. Right there where that sleeve meets the pocket, I want to go in fairly deep, and then I'm going to take off that chunk that's right there and remove it. What that does is it puts that sleeve running down into that pocket. You can see it running down in that pocket right there. I'll round it all over so it'll look more realistic. That'll allow me to get up under here and take care of some of these bulges that are sticking out, pieces of wood that I didn't cut off. Leaves me plenty of room there to play. And I can go in here under this arm, go in on the body side, make a stop cut, and I'm going to do this because I don't want it all coming out. And I don't want it all coming out the wrong way, rather. I'm going to make that cut right there. And that pushes this cloth, whatever this cloth is for this shirt and the pants, pushes it further underneath that arm. So now I got these marks out here that I can take off that further around that and make it look like real cloth. That also leaves me wood on the front of this to add to the bulge. So his bulge goes around his arm, around on these pants, and down here where this, let me take that cut off right there. Don't need that. I like the way this guy's going. Take off a little bit of wood here. I know there's going to be a collar in here, probably. I'm going to give this guy a shirt and a collar. Maybe a bow tie or whatever I feel like doing. Big gouge again. I'm right up here at the buttocks right here. A little bit of wood cuts there. I'm going to take some of those off because there's going to be a shape for the buttocks right here. I haven't got the legs carved where I want them. I want them to go up a little bit higher. But anyway, this fella's looking very, what do the kids call it? He's looking fly now. He's fly. Okay. At this point, we're about 2:20. Got about 20 more minutes. Is there anything that I went over too fast for you or didn't explain or didn't talk or didn't say about? There he is. That's where we're at, and I think that's a pretty good start on him. Anything I need to cover? Because if you don't say anything, then I'm going to think I'm the most wonderful teacher in the world and I've taught you everything you need to know, and you don't need any questions because I taught it to you. If you believe that, stand up on your head. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. Thing said I've videotaped for 2 hours and 4 minutes, so that's about the edge of where it would take 4 hours or 8 hours to load up. So I'm gonna call it quits about right there. Your homework for the next time we come back is get to that point we're at now, and or do the same thing on the other leg and on the other arm. That's where we want you to be by then. So see if you can get that fella here. Watch the video as many times as you need to. You got my email. Send me questions. I'll help you in any way. Maybe we'll have a FaceTime meeting or something like that or whatever. I've never used it, but we could. But anyway, we got a good start on this guy. The arm is too thick. We're going to slim that down. And when we do, we're going to take off the wood to the front and not to the back. So we would take more wood off here to make a skinny arm rather than make it skinny way back here. If we make it too skinny in the front, it looks like his elbows are jacked back there too much, which means it has a hard time getting his pants in there, or hands in his pants. So we would cut back off here. If there are no questions, I'm going to end the recording portion of the video.